Hello and welcome to the Ultrawizard Ramble podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Reagan, and today I'm going to get a chance to sit down with one of my favorite people in the world, longtime coaching client of mine, even more importantly, friend, Lotti Brinks. This is episode number 3. And today I'm going to get a chance to chat with someone I think really highly of that's a pillar of our ultra running community, not only just in terms of how they approach running and racing, professionally, how they approach design and the products they make with their husband Aaron in Boise, Idaho, but someone that just has a good attitude in life and a good approach to life. Lotti likes to be out in nature and run in the woods and make beautiful things for people and make beautiful memories. So without further delay, today I'm going to have a really long form conversation with someone I think really highly of, Lotti Brinks. Okay, Lotti, it's been a long time coming where you and I have had a chance to get on a podcast one-on-one together as two good friends, but also as athlete coach. So today I'm excited to welcome you to the Ultrawizard Ramble podcast.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
So we have a plethora of different topics to cover today let me give everybody a little bit of background information on Lotti. So Lotti and I first started chatting when she was 17 or 18 years old about her coming to run for me in college when I was a college coach. And it worked out. And she came to the United States, ran for a couple years at the university, got into biking, reapproached me a couple years ago with, hey, coach, I just ran 30 miles. And my first thought was, oh, wow. Lotti's made to do this. You know, she's a great long distance cyclist. She's always had an affinity for the longest distance when it came to track and field and cross country. So without further ado, Lotti Brinks, Salomon pro athlete now. And we're excited to just unpackage everything about you today, Lotti.
Yeah, we have quite some history. Where do we start?
Well, first and foremost, I think we want to just hear a good general background on you, who you are, you know, your life in Germany, and what led you to deciding to come to, you know, Savannah, Georgia first, of all places that you could have picked.
Yeah, that's a long story. So I grew up in Germany. My whole family is still there. They actually just visited me, which was really fun. But they are still there. I ran a little bit in high school. Started pretty late in high school because we don't really have high school teams how it is here in the States. It's more so almost like club sports, I would say. But I started running a bit in high school and had some talent. I wasn't like the fastest person ever, but I was always gritty and I was the only one who wanted to do long distance. And eventually I made it to German nationals. At that point, I was a team of one because no one else wanted to run. So me and my coach at the time went to German nationals. I had a great race there. I ran the 3K, I think, and the 1500, something like that. And there was an organization there that approached me and asked me if I would be interested in studying in the United States and running for a college there. And at that point, I had no idea what I wanted to do after high school. Like, I was really close to graduating, but I didn't really know what exactly I wanted to study. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, I can just give it a shot. It sounds like a fun, free gap year. And I kind of took the plunge, and that's how we got connected.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, the fun gap year turned into many, many years over here. So that's how I made the move from Munich to Savannah, Georgia.
Okay, so you grew up in Bavaria, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up. I'm curious about just like your childhood in general. What was it like growing up in that part of Germany?
It was lovely. I come from a very, very small village. It's not even a town. It's a tiny village, and I'm not even in the village. I'm just like my house number is a street address because we're the only road, only house on the street. So that's how small it is. That's where I'm from. Huge playground as a kid. We were outside all the time. I have 3 siblings. We were always doing fun things. My sisters are still really into horses. We spent a lot of time just hanging out with animals, running around, being active. We spend a lot of time in the mountains too.
Spending time outside.
Yeah. My dad is really into like hiking and mountain biking and being out in the mountains. So we used to do that a lot growing up.
Very cool. Okay, so growing up, you have an immediate affinity for being outdoors, being in the mountains. Was there a lot of trail running growing up? Did you spend time on bikes on trails? Did you spend time running on trails?
I did not run on trails at all, really. For me, running was just, I didn't even start thinking about running until I was 16, I think, when I started. So before that, I didn't run at all. I did do mountain biking. We used to go to Italy on mountain bike trips with my family, which was always super fun. But I never really had thought about running on trails. It was either hiking up in the Alps, and that's always really fun because in Europe there are like all these little huts where you can go and have a coffee or a beer and a sandwich, and we always did that on the weekends and was always super fun, and mountain biking too. But I didn't start trail running until way later, even after Savannah.
Yeah, so Savannah, not a huge trail running hub, right?
No.
But a great place to run. Like, no snow on the ground, great clean underfoot kind of weather, easy to get fit, easy to stay fit all year round. Okay, so you take this opportunity, right? The person that you're talking about the person that Lotti is talking about that came to offer her this opportunity to work with a recruiting company is Simon Stutzel. And he has a company called Scholar Book. And Simon recruits athletes from all over, Germany and Austria. He was a competitor of mine in college at the Division II level. He ran at Queens University up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we ran it at his home course a bunch when Lotti came to college. Simon was a excellent 1,500 meter runner, right? 342, 343. And he had approached you and said, hey, you have quite a bit of talent. You should go to the US and see where it takes you. So this is where life for you begins to change. You thought it was a gap year, but you came here and we had a great team. I mean, It was a cool atmosphere and you met some of the best friends maybe you'll ever have, right?
Absolutely. Probably the best decision of my life, honestly. Otherwise, I would not be here.
And probably wouldn't have met your husband, who we'll get to, right? We'll get to that down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in Savannah, you have a couple years of running, right? We had a couple really smooth years. From the get-go, we kind of sensed, Lotti's got something special, right? You ran 18-14 maybe your freshman year in cross country. You were top 6 or 7 in the conference, like just a great season. You were our top finisher at the national championships as a freshman in cross country, right?
Yeah, that one was a rough one. I remember that to this day. My first national cross country championship. It was cold and hilly and muddy and oh my God, it was a struggle, but it was great. I loved it. I came to Savannah. I was never part of a real team before that. So just having that team culture, meeting my best friends, it was amazing. And being able to, run with people and train together every day. I remember during the first week or so, you were telling me that eventually I'll run 10 miles or something. And I thought that was insane. I was like, there's no way I will ever run 10 miles. And here we are.
Here we are, and you got there quite quickly. I can remember your freshman year, you thinking, that's much further than I've ever run.
Yeah.
You were maxing out at maybe 12-kilometer, 10-kilometer long runs. And at the high school level quite talented, right? You had some good marks in the 1500 and 3K. But one thing I noticed about you from just that first season onward was from a persona perspective, you cared about team, and it felt very special for you to have team. That's always been part of who you are, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, very driven by community and I always want to be part of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love connecting with people, especially if we're working on a goal together, right? Like at SCAD in Savannah, we always had that vision of making internationals and being one of the top teams, and just like we were a tiny school, we were just trying to like make our way up in the rankings, and that was just awesome having a couple other girls pushing each other. We had a great team, and it really helped me as a runner. I mean, the first, like my freshman and sophomore year, like with every single race I PR'd. It was just a great environment for me to grow as a runner.
So you have that first nationals up at Rimrock in Kansas, super hilly. There's an 800-meter climb, in a cross-country course. It's pretty cool. You get through that winter, and we start to hit the winter season, and our first race is a 10K. I can remember you doing maybe a 1500 and a 5K on the track at kind of an indoor-outdoor meet at Embry-Riddle. But then our first big competition was with our friend Jesse, who has passed since. But you and Jesse had lined up for your first 10K on the track. You decided kind of last minute, I think, Coach, I think I want to do something hard and far, right? And this was my first exposure to Lotti, to the you now of I want to go far and I want it to be very hard. And as a freshman, you said, I want to prepare for the 10K with Jesse. I want to run 25 laps and I want to see where it takes me. And this was a big moment for you, right? This freshman year 10K race at Raleigh Relays was huge. We got you both in the night heat, in the competitive heat. So you were on the track with women from NC State, North Carolina, kind of all across the board. I mean, you had a great opportunity here. So kind of walk us through that like big breakthrough race for you. That's what I think of as your huge breakthrough your freshman year.
Yeah, same. That is probably to this, like I would not want to run a 10K on a track right now. Like I would probably hate it, but that race to this day is one of my favorite races and running experiences ever. It was really, really fun to train for it with Jessie. Jessie was one of my biggest mentors back then. Like we ran every workout together. I looked up to her so much. And she was always my biggest idol. I was like, I want to be as fast as Jessie. And the day of the race, all I did was like stick to her and keep up with her. And we had such a great time. We were talking during the race while we were like breathing really heavy. I was like, am I speaking English still? Like, can you understand me? Because I was so tired. But we had such a good time. And we were just like one lap after another, just working through it. And we had such a good time after. We celebrated in the hotel room. I remember getting a bunch of ice cream. It's, one of the best memories that I have of all of my college years.
I think it's one of my best coaching memories. I remember giving you all laps and eventually just giving up on laps because you were so in the rhythm. You were so in tune with your bodies and what was going on. And I remember just throwing down my paper just so I could watch you two execute every 400 meters. It was so cool. Like, it's one of my favorite coaching memories from when I was a college coach, for sure. We've, of course, since had like so many great memories in ultra running, but that was a really special moment for you and me because we saw, massive potential from someone that's just super young and super new to the program. So let's unpackage this a little bit. You had a pretty good sophomore year in cross country. It was very solid. Like we had a decent national championship in cross country, and we rolled into to unpackage your freshman year a little more. You had an injury at nationals, or right before nationals that held you back from finishing the 10K on the track.
Right.
And you went in with a pretty high seeding. I remember like you were looking like, okay, All-American, meaning top 8. For those people that aren't familiar with how All-American works, it's just your top 8 award. And that's, you as a college athlete, you try to kind of rack up those All-American awards. So you had a very frustrating race, right?
Yeah.
In the 10K at Nationals. And we pulled you for your health just to make sure you didn't harm yourself. And you came back in the fall kind of with vengeance, and you had a good cross country.
I did. That was my first.
That led into, yeah.
That was my first experience of an injury, really. And I ran the 5K and the 10K that year. I remember doing the prelim for the 5K, and that's where it really, like, something happened there, and that's why the 10K was so terrible after. And that was my first really frustrating experience with injuries, and that kind of kept going for the next couple of years. So my freshman year and my sophomore year were really great. I hit all my PRs there. It was awesome. The team was awesome, and I had a great experience. And then after that, my injuries started kind of trickling in, and then my junior and senior year were a little lighter on the running front because of that. So that's when I actually joined the cycling team and started rekindled my love with bikes.
Okay, so take us through your rekindling of your love for cycling. So this started to show me as your coach the breadth of the type of athlete you could become, right? Like the hope was always to be ready again for cross country, and it didn't happen, right? Like we didn't get ready for your senior year of cross, but you delved into bikes, and I shared an office with the cycling coach at the time, and your coach Ben. I remember him coming to me and saying, "Hey, buddy, Lottie's something super special on the bike." And I said, "Well, tell me about it. What do you think she's going to accomplish this year?" And he's like, "She could win the national championship." And I'm, wait. I wasn't going to cycling practices. I had no idea. And I remember him when he first told me, if she keeps at it, she's going to podium. So run us through like your best years in college of cycling.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I grew up mountain biking, so I always loved just being on a bike. Since there are no mountains in Georgia, SCAD had more so a road-focused team. There was some mountain biking, but not much. So I joined the cycling team in my junior year, and at first it was more like you said, just to stay fit, to then eventually get back to running and get fit for cross country without putting impact on my legs, feet, everything. But I ended up really loving it. And cycling in college is kind of weird because you start I started in a B category, and to go to nationals, you actually have to be in an A category. So for me, it was this challenge to make it into the A category as fast as possible so I could go to nationals. And that's just how my brain works. Like I always need that carrot, like I need that thing to achieve. So yeah. I just really wanted to go to nationals, and we had a great cycling team. Like people were on the, not just the SCAD national team, but we had USA racers on it. I'm really good friends with one of them still, and it was a great team. And I really enjoyed being on the bikes, putting in long days. Like we would do many 100-mile rides. That was when I first did the 100-mile distance. And
right.
Yeah,
100 miles on a bike, very, very different from 100 miles running.
Different.
And a lot of people that have run 100 miles feel like biking 100 miles is very far, right? It's a whole different discipline. It
is. Yeah. The first time I did it, I was like, oof, this is rough. This is hard. But I loved it, and I had really quick success with cycling. Like I made it into the A category within a couple months. Like I had maybe 3-4 races that I won, and then I moved up into the A category, and then I made it onto the nationals team, and it was super awesome traveling with the cycling team. We had a really great showing at nationals, and I came in second. So Ben was right. I made it onto the podium at nationals in the individual time trial.
Okay, so you got second at nationals, right? That was a pretty huge day for you. How long was the individual time trial? Tell me a little bit about that in terms of what was the discipline in terms of the length of it, and how many hours did it take you?
It wasn't hours. The individual time trial, which is probably why I was good at it, is not very technical because you don't have to ride in a huge like peloton. It's just you and your bike, and you try to cover a specific distance as fast as possible. And the tricky thing about it is that you kind of have to go like really hard for the entirety of the race. Like you can't just coast behind someone and draft on someone. It's just you against the wind, really, because the wind is your biggest enemy. I don't remember how long it was actually. I'm pretty sure it was under an hour. It was pretty fast. But yeah, it was a really cool event, really cool race in Grand Junction. So first time I went to Colorado too. And yeah, hilly, fast, hard.
Also huge adjustment, elevation. I mean,
Yeah.
you were training in a place that, what is Savannah, Georgia? -8 feet sea level. I mean, we are below sea level, right? You're training in a place it's very difficult to have an affinity to go up that high in elevation. So
Yeah.
you have a little bit of a proclivity here for being good at sea level, but also even training at sea level, being quite good at elevation, which, well, we're going to get into it,
Yeah.
but we've seen this in your ultra running too, right? Where you can go up to places that are higher elevation than, say, Austin, Texas, and do well. So, okay, you find bikes, you do well at bikes, and tell us a little bit, just as a precursor for what we'll talk about later, what you studied at university and how central of a role it has become in your life as well.
Yeah, I went to SCAD for industrial design. So that was a mix of like real physical product design and also a lot of UX, UI design classes and just general design, web, graphic, all of that. So I still do that now, more in a management capacity than actual design work for my real day job. And then me and my husband, we own a little maker studio.
And what's the name of your studio?
It's Amelio. We focus primarily on really high-end kitchen knives. That's what started it. We met in college and we started Amelio in college as a knife making business. So we would spend long days, long nights in the metal shop that SCAD had, like just, grinding away, working with metal. It was really fun. And that's really how we bonded and how we met. We're now married, so it worked out. But since then, we have expanded Amelio to become a bigger brand, including more lifestyle products, still a lot of kitchen products, but within the entire house. And it's all centered around very simple yet elegant design, but also sustainable and easy to make. We're trying to do a lot with CNC machines to cut down on the actual hands-on time and making files available to everyone so everyone can do it. There's still a lot to be figured out as we just moved, so our shop is not set up yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there. Okay, so when you first presented Aaron to me, Aaron was your friend, and the two of you eventually married and have been one of the happier couples that I've got to know in your adult lives, like meaning after university. So, okay, so you and Aaron have this cool business. You're based in Austin, Texas, and you find ultra running on a whim, kind of, right?
Yeah.
You had a little post-collegiate experience before ultra running, like some duathlon kind of work, right? Tell us about some of your like kind of success with the duathlon before and leading into ultra running.
Yeah, it was. I didn't race much duathlon until a little later, but after college, I still rode my bike a lot in Austin. I would get out
Mm-hmm.
on long rides, primary like mostly by myself because I didn't know anyone back then. And I would also run. Like I started to pick up running again slowly. I only really started running like a decent mileage. And by decent mileage, I mean like 20 miles a week. I just started doing that again in like end of 2019, like 2020, somewhere around there.
Okay. Sure.
And that on top of bikes. And then I did my first duathlon in I think 2020, 2021, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. All the
Okay.
years blend together.
So at this juncture, and we're talking 2020, 2021, you become interested in running ultras. And you specifically get there by finding that you have an affinity for actually running the ultra distance, meaning more than a marathon. So what sparked you onto it? I mean, I remember the data as soon as you sent it to me. The data Lotti sent me was 30 miles and it was very fast and it was on a whim. So tell me about like, why did you even go down this path as someone that has, I don't want to speak for you, but as your coach, I saw that you struggled with durability in college. Mm-hmm. So what led you to, meaning you had some stress fractures, right? You had a few problems that led you to the bicycle. So what sparked ultra running for you? Like, why was it something that interested you?
So I did that 30-mile run right after I didn't watch it back. I mean, I don't think there was a live stream back then, but my good friend Kaylee Demersion ran Javelina in 2020. And then I just like tracked her and was like, wow, this is insane how long she runs for. And then the very next day, I was like, I want to see how long I can run for. So it came from I just want to see if I can run around the lake 3 times and not die. So
cool.
She really just, in like her running 100 miles, I was like, I want to see how far I can go. And then the next morning, which is actually like that same day, we flew to Alaska for just a vacation. So I only made it around the lake for 30 miles, 3 laps, because we had to catch a flight after. But I probably could have kept going. I had such a great time and I loved it. And I remember talking to you about it after, and I was just so excited. I was like, maybe I should try doing what Kaylee's doing.
Yeah, and I remember quite well how that run went for Kaylee because I paced her for the last 40 miles,
there.
right? Yeah, and I was her coach. She hadn't moved to Savannah yet, but at the time I'd already been coaching her, and I'd seen her grit and toughness as a young woman that studied art and design at our branch campus, SCAD Atlanta, and Lotti and Kaylee became good friends in college and had spent a little time in Europe together. Not only that, but you were sparked from an interest perspective from when you crewed me in 2016 at my first Ultrawizard.
Yeah,
right.
It was
I ran
wild.
the 90K, and you and your dad came down, and your brother, and I can remember you tossing me bottles and being ready for me at aid stations. What do you need at the next one? And me telling you what I needed. And I remember when I crossed the finish line, you saying, "I'm going to do that someday."
Yeah.
And I can kind of remember the look in your eyes, right, Lotti, of not only had Kaylee inspired you at this juncture, but I knew you were inspired then too, especially when it came to trail and running events like 90K to 100K, 80K. So this 30-mile run sparks it for you. And we're talking 2020. I paced Kaylee. She got third at Javelina. This is well before she moved to Savannah and became a full-time tattoo artist. This is well before you moved to Boise. You're still living in Austin, Texas. And you decide, based on how that 30-miler went, that you would like to run your first ultra. And you choose the Bandera 50K, right? So tell us about Tell us about the plan that me and you had developed for your intro to ultra running for that first 2 or 3 months, because it was somewhat aggressive.
Yeah, it was quite the quick turnaround because Javelina was on October 31st, like Halloween time. And then we chatted maybe 2 weeks later or something, and I was already in Alaska. I remember that. And then Bandera is the first week of January. So we only really had like half of November and December. And for like 4 of those weeks, I was in Alaska running in the snow. So it was quite aggressive. Like we were like, all right, in 6 weeks, first race. But it was okay because I had no expectations. I just wanted to like experience the trails and just see how it feels like to race again. So while those like 6 weeks were probably like the most I've ran since college, it felt good because I had that carrot in front of me wanting to run that race, but at the same time there was no pressure, no expectation. So I didn't feel overwhelmed by the distance or by the training or anything. It was more so fun to dive back into actual like structured training because I hadn't had that for so long.
Okay, so Lottie's very modest, and it's always like pulling teeth to get information out of Lottie. You win the Bandera 50K, right? You win the ladies' race. You're top 5 overall, maybe top 3. And then you go to Rocky Raccoon and you run 8:43, the all-time women's course record for the 100K there. 8:43 would, get you on some countries' world's teams on the road. Did you win outright?
Rocky?
I forget at this point, Lottie.
I did.
Yeah, or
Rocky
you were
Raccoon,
second.
I did. Right? Yeah, Bandera I was second
the
overall,
100K.
I think. Yeah.
Right, second overall. So you have a killer opening of races, and you find that the Texas Hill Country and the Rocky Raccoon style courses are ideal for you while you're training in your region. So that year, we decided to sign up for the Javelina 100 miler. It's your first 100 miler, and it's the first year that it's a golden ticket race.
Which I had no idea what a golden ticket was. I did not know what I was getting into.
Right. You just wanted to run the race because Kaylee did, and you had this interest in it. Your coach had run it. You knew I could get you ready for it. Kaylee had run it. You had an affinity for running in the heat. You always have. What was the build up like to that, and what was the task like? Because the task was daunting, right? Like when I think about someone that goes from specializing in the 10K to doing hour-long bicycle races to all of a sudden doing 50Ks and 100Ks and signing up for their first 100 miler in the same season, I think, whew, this is daunting. But you have the mind for this. Like the way I think about you as an athlete is you are inclined to just live in the suffer well, and enjoy the experience wire to wire. So why 100 miles so quickly? And tell us about the block leading into it. I mean, what was the training like?
I think part of it was because that was the race that inspired me to start. So I wanted to run it as soon as possible. And I also, I just wanted to have that triple digit. Like, I just really, like, to this day, I still love 100Ks and 100 milers just because I get even though 100K is not necessarily triple digits in miles, it is in Ks. I don't know what it is. That's just how my brain works. But yeah, the Kaylee's race sparked the interest for Javelina, and that's why I wanted to run it. And I also really wanted to run in the desert because it just seemed really fun and really cool. And I think it was daunting at first running 100 miles, especially after running the 50K and the 100K distances, because I was pretty wrecked after that, after my first 2 races ever. But I'm a person who gains a lot of confidence from training and stacking good training on top of each other. So I think we really managed to break it up into bite-sized chunks. And every day I just like went out there, did my run, did my workout, and didn't really think about it too much until it was time to race, right? So I didn't, like, the idea of 100 miles was daunting, but the build-up was really fun because I just got to like stack the building blocks.
Part of the building blocks were, and I've always known you for this specifically, but your affinity to eat and eat many calories and fuel well. So a few things I noticed as a coach from Lotti and the building blocks and the general training and the way we built for the race was, Lotti did some like a lot of hot weather ancillary long-term heat training. She had the opportunity to do so living in Austin, Texas. Remind me, Lotti, did we do Captain Carl's that year?
We did.
We did Captain Carl's 60K that season. Oof. So we were doing hot weather 60K races. And I remember you calling me after and just saying, oh, like grueling at 60K. Like, wow, that many more miles. Like, what is this going to feel like? But what you had that Javelina doesn't have is the humidity. And that's what I get here. And I think that the humidity for those short course runs, 50K to 60K in training, really prepares you well for Javelina. Because, in my opinion, it's one of the most technical races in the world. From, if you stack all of the little bits, and it's one of the most underestimated races too, because you have heat, sand, extremely exposed weather for a really long time. There's no shade. There's nowhere to hide. If you don't wear UV protectant gear, you get burnt. If you don't reapply sunscreen, you get burnt. If you don't start using ice bandanas early and often, or ice in hats, etc., sleeves, you get burnt. So that there are so many little paper cuts involved with Javelina, but we really delved into that entire process, right? So at the time we're talking, you're like 24, 25, right? This is pretty early on just in your life in general. And you go to Javelina and you nail it. You missed the golden ticket by 20 minutes to Tessa Chesser. You had no idea what a golden ticket was. We weren't racing for it. You were just going there to have a good time, right? It came full circle too, right? Kaylee paces you. Kaylee Demerjian, one of my best friends, lives in Savannah. She paces you. So what was your first 100-mile run like? I mean, this is a huge level up in terms of distance for you, right? And this is a huge moment for you because you get this triple digits, right? Like you get all three, like not just 100K, but you get 100 miles, 161K, right? Yeah. So what's that whole experience like running your first 100-miler at one of the more brutal exposed hundreds? Not technical from a footing standpoint or a vert, but brutal and unforgiving.
The most brutal part was that my watch clocked it at 99.9 miles. So didn't quite get the triple digits, I guess. Not to this day.
Did you add on? You didn't add on yet.
No. But anyway, it was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was such an awesome day. Again, I had no idea what I was getting into. Like, I had good training. I was really confident that I could do it. I just didn't know how I was gonna feel after 60 miles. And I also had no idea who all my competitors were. Like, I had no idea who any of these people were. And I would just put my whole trust into you as my coach and Kaylee as my pacer. And there was also, thankfully, Nicole Monette was out there racing as well. So I got to spend the first 40 miles with her. And that was really helpful because we were just chatting away and I was just able to work with her a little bit so she could kind of pull me along, and I was just kind of watching her do the thing. And it was awesome. I remember that I was icing a lot. I got ice bandanas at every single aid station. I drank so much Roctane to the point where I was like, I had never had that much caffeine in my life because they only had the caffeinated one. Right. But it was great. And then the last loop, like Kaylee and I, we just had such a runner's high. We were just like screaming and having fun.
Yeah.
She was feeding me chips. It was just great. And I didn't even know like the whole, like I knew about the golden ticket because you told me about it like the day before. Um, but I really wasn't thinking about that much. So when Tessa passed me, I was just like, oh my God, you go, Tessa, like, good job. And she was just eventually gone. And it was like, I was just out there to do my thing. I was not out there to win a golden ticket or anything. So I crossed the finish line and there was no disappointment that I didn't get the ticket. There was only like excitement, elation. It was such a great feeling to cross that finish line of my first 100-miler.
4th place, your first 100-miler, a great experience. I can remember watching videos of you and Nicole, who's a partner coach in my coaching services, and an athlete I've been working with as her coach for a long time. And Chris Warden was working the video camera on you too. So I got an up close and personal look at the things you were doing at the beginning of Loop 2. And I was like, arm sleeves are out, ice bandanas are on, ices and hats. And I was here in this office monitoring just how the day was going. And I remember Jamil or someone had said, these two know what they're doing on this course. They're wearing gaiters, they have arm sleeves, they already got the ice bandanas out, and it's a hot one, right? So these are the type of things we've always focused on in the coaching program, Lotti. The specificity, right? It goes back to why do we do 5K and 10K race pace in college? To get ready for 5Ks and 10Ks. Why do we eat funky foods and try new things in training? To dial in what will work in these really long course efforts on race day, right? Because if you don't practice it in training, how could you possibly do it on race day, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so this one goes really well, and we're approaching now 2022. Tell us a little bit about the year, at least the early stages. Like we'd had some hiccups, right? And this is part of ultra running. This is part of running as an athlete. Like sometimes you catch some bad luck. Sometimes you fall and hit your head at Lake Sonoma. I mean, there were a million little things we could look at and reasons for that we could break down why Black Canyon didn't go well or why Lake Sonoma didn't go well. But I think more of the story is in the latter stages of the season. So let's kind of break down where you were at and how you stayed in the game from Black Canyon early season leading all the way through a frustrating UTMB and got to your next Javelina. Because that's the kind of exciting aha moment. Like the next Javelina is your like, oh, right? Like this is my aha moment. So that's the arc here. We're like, ooh, frustrating. But there's light at the end of the tunnel here. So tell us about the year. It doesn't have to be long. We don't want to talk to death, but tell us about what it's like to be an ultra runner and deal with frustration.
Yeah, 2022 was pretty hard for me. And it was partially because my opening season, like 2021 was so great. Like I jumped into the sport, had flawless. Immediate success, like made it into, like with my second race ever, made it onto the top 10 100K list in the States. It was great. Like I could not believe what was going on. And I got my like first sponsorship. I'm still with Salomon, but I got my Salomon sponsorship after only being in the sport for 5 months, something like that. I PR'd my 50K. I did all these things in 2021 and every race was great. And then 2022 rolls around and I have all these big goals. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I try to dial things in maybe a little bit too much. And I kind of lost the spark a little bit because I was just trying too hard, I guess. Not entirely sure, but yeah. I had a couple.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Couple of frustrating races. Some things that I couldn't control. Like I get Black Canyon. I knocked out my kneecap. It was so stupid. it was rough. But yeah, weird things. And I had some rhabdo scares. It was just a really frustrating season overall. And eventually I was just like, I need to get back to how I ran in 2021. I need to do something that I can actually train for. Like it's just, I did UTMB in 2022 and I spent so much time, and it's good training. Like the training worked. I was really fit. But
Sure,
it was
you were
just
fit.
not it was just not like I lost my spark in training because I spent so much time just hiking up a treadmill. And I mean that's effective training, but it doesn't bring me joy hiking up a treadmill with a weight vest. So after UTMB, I was like, I need to go back to square one, do what I love, which is just running on trails, not thinking too much about things, and running something that I know I can do, where I can feel confident about it, where I can just have fun with friends and knock one out. And that's when I emailed Jubilee and was like, hey, can I run Javelina? I know the wait list is full, but please let me in. And she did. And it was so great. I had such an awesome day going back to Javelina. I did the 100K, not the 100 miler. Wasn't quite ready for the 100 miler after UTMB,
Yeah.
but I'm really glad I went back to that race because that kind of gave me my spark back, as cheesy as it sounds.
Well, you learned something about yourself in that I don't want to train on a treadmill so much. You had a
Yeah.
great training partner. You were training with Nicole Bitter at the time. It was a great fit for you. We were doing lots of hill strides. We were doing tons of work that Magda had me do for Western States, but with even more vert.
Yeah.
So you were spending an awful lot of time, given that you were living in a flat place like Austin, Texas, training on a treadmill. And you've always been the type of runner that, from an ambiance perspective, you love to be outdoors. So to be doing even 15% of our volume indoors on a treadmill was somewhat frustrating. So Javelina goes really well. You run very fast. You PR in the 100K, and you break Courtney DeWalter's record. It goes exceptionally well for you. It was a huge moment for you to go to a Javelina race and win the short course. So from there, things only get better. Like this is kind of the part that I'm jittery and I've got goosebumps just based on how the past few months have gone. Me and you kind of decide to adapt your programming a little bit, and we decide, hey, like let's let things flow a little more. Let's still work together, but I'm going to step in as more of I'm going to prescribe quality sessions and total hours of training. We're going to do a higher frequency of calls per month. I'm going to turn into more of an advisory role. I'm going to give you the bones of what you should be doing, and you're going to flesh it out, right?
Yeah.
So we start to do this around about the time of Black Canyon, it was a frustrating Black Canyon, right? Like we had a little rhabdo scare. We thought Javelina went so well, like another rhabdo scare here. You made the right decision. You pulled out of the race before things got crazy. And then we step into this role that we're currently in as you're approaching Gorge Waterfalls. So this is where things really start to catch on fire for you. Me and you are falling back into a really good rhythm of athlete coach. You're getting excited training for Gorge, and you do Gorge on a whim. You do Gorge uncrewed, no assistance, no support. You carry all your calories. Like, how does it go? I mean, now we're in this conversation of a double. We're talking about a killer double you just had. Gorge Waterfalls 100K into Tillamook Burn 50 miler. How does Gorge go?
It was great. I will say I didn't necessarily have crew. I carried all my own stuff, but my good friend jumped in last minute to pace me, so I did have a little bit of support. But just, I think Gorge went so well because I had so much fun in training. Just to like go back just a little bit, in after Black Canyon was just a stop for us on our way up to Boise, Idaho, where me and my husband just moved to. So I really wanted to spend my time here just exploring and figuring out the trail systems and like getting to know all the different like places where I could go here, where I could train, meeting new people. I spent some time training with some really, really fast short course mountain runners, some other ultra runners. It's amazing. And I just really wanted the flexibility so I can just, I guess, do what I wanted to do each day without feeling the constraints of like a very rigid training plan. And that's how me and you decided that we should move into this like advising role relationship instead. And that has worked amazingly for both Gorge and Tillamook Burn, because I really got to kind of take the reins and do whatever I felt like I needed to do on each specific day to get me prepared for these races. But I still had your support and your advice on what quality sessions I needed to do, on what I should be paying attention to, on maybe dialing things back after races. So
yeah, this is the bread and butter of what we're doing now.
Exactly. And that's just really great for me because I get to have fun with training and do what I want to do, but still have the confidence for races that there is actual how do you say that, reason to the madness? No, what's the saying? Something like that.
Method to the madness. Sure.
Yeah, so I get to have the confidence that there's an actual structure behind it and an actual plan. So I can go to races knowing that I actually am fit and I didn't just spend all my time playing around. Like, I am putting in the work, but I do it in a way that feels very natural to me and makes me feel good about going to races. So I go into Gorge really, like, I felt really fit, but that was the first time I really trained on more mountainous terrain. It was the first time I really got in considerable vert. And it was totally different training than what I've done before, really. Still like the structure that most people do. We have strides, we have long runs, we have some workouts, but it was very intuitive. And Gorge was exactly the same. The race itself was very intuitive for me. I didn't look at my watch. I just ate when I felt like I needed to eat. I didn't have any like super complicated nutrition plans or anything. I carried my stuff. I didn't think about any like, I don't know, strategy on when I need to move in what position or when I needed to be at what aid station. There was no one except for at halfway. My husband came to cheer. But other than that, there was no one waiting for me to like grab things, give me things. So I didn't have to be worried about making people wait for me or something. It was just very intuitive, very much just see what happens. And it worked out great. I felt great the whole entire day. Ran with some amazing women that I look up to. And it was really fun.
Yeah, so you and Riley, you have this great battle, right? They had a great race. They had a ton of support. But you had this great foundation you'd been laying in your mind that I'm back to doing this for the right reasons, for myself, right? I'm back to doing what I love to do in the way that I love to do it. And that's just getting out in the woods and enjoying the ambiance, right? Enjoying the setting. Finding a way to get fit without putting pressure on yourself. And look, Lotti, I dealt with that for 18 months. Just this hyper-focused, no matter how much I told myself in training, I was growing and changing as a runner and learning how to not be results-oriented. I was still getting to race week and finding myself back in that same old stressed-out position. And you, at a much younger age, figured out how not to do that. And for a lot of my career, I spent time in that area that you're in now and that I'm in now. But there was that gap in the middle around about right after the pandemic, or at least the height of, the global worldwide virus we're dealing with, that we struggled with becoming results oriented, both you and me at the same time, and putting pressure on ourselves. And how good does it feel to be back, right? You have this fantastic race at Gorge, and you roll it into an idea that I thought was crazy when we went on Trail Runner Nation together. You told me on the podcast, I'm running Tillamook Burn 50 miler. And I said,
surprise.
Oh, man, the surprise. And I thought, okay, we're going to train once, kind of kill two birds with one stone, not do anything crazy between the two races. But there's a tight gap here. So you recover really well. I keep you patient, following Gorge. You've always been the type of person that recovers really quickly, probably other than Javelina your first time. What does the build between the two look like, and lead into telling us about how Tillamook Burn went? Because I think this is one of the best doubles I've seen by a person as young as you in a very long time.
Yeah, it was. So the reason I signed up for Tillamook Burn in the first place is because Daybreak Racing put on such a great event with free trail at Gorge that I thought it would just be really fun to run another one of their races. And I really just heard so many good things about the Tillamook Burn, and I loved racing in the Pacific Northwest. The trails are so bouncy. It's really fun. There are waterfalls. It's not hot for once. So it was like, I just was sold as soon as I finished Gorge. Like, I was like, sign me up for the next one. So I guess to roll it back a little bit, at the time that I raced Tillamook Burn, I already raced 4 ultras, right? Including Tillamook. I raced Bandera, Black Canyon, Gorge, and then Tillamook, all within 4 months. So that's the most I've ever raced. And I have a Broken Arrow coming up too. So this year in general is just the most I ever raced. So it's kind of new territory for us. But I think why this double really worked is because...
It is, but shorter course too. Not all super long course, right?
Exactly. It's a good mix. But I think what really worked after Gorge is I took almost a week off. And then I had one big week. And then after that one big week, I kind of tapered it down a bit. But it was kind of similar to Gorge, where I didn't really put much pressure on myself. And it was a total solo trip. I drove out to, it's not in Portland, it's like east of Portland somewhere. Like, I drove for 8 hours the night before I got there, had dinner with my friend, drove to the race in the morning, ran the race, and drove 8 hours home right after the race. It was really low key. Carried all my own stuff. Yeah, like
truly dirt bagging it though. You know what I mean by the term, right? Like, where you're like, this is dirt bag ultra running, where you're like, low budget. I'm showing up. I'm fit. I'm gonna have fun. I'm not gonna worry too much about it, and I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna have a great day. Like, no matter what the performance is like, it's gonna be a great day, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's so. I totally think that having a crew is super beneficial. I love having pacers. I love having a crew. And obviously for big races, for 100-milers, there is a 100% a place for them. I would not want to run something like Western States without a crew, obviously. But for this one, it was really I did it just for myself. And I didn't have to worry about anything else. It was just me spending a Saturday in the way that I want to spend a Saturday, not worrying about anything. I carried everything from the get-go. I didn't have to worry about drop bags. I didn't have to worry about picking things up from the aid stations. It was just me out in the woods on a Saturday morning, and it was lovely. And I had a great race, great day. I reconnected with a friend. It was awesome. It was like, I could not imagine it going better.
So you roll this race into a new course record at Tillamook Burn 50 miler. You have another exceptional day. We don't really need to talk about Tillamook a lot. other than it's another wonderful race by Daybreak Racing, and you had another incredible day. But it all comes down to, and I think this is the takeaway, right? We talked about a lot of data and a lot of race results in this cast, but the most important thing for me and Lotti personally, and maybe other runners can connect with this that have gone through rough patches in their career, is when you're in that results-oriented mindset, you need to remember back to why you fell in love with the sport, right? You need to remember back to, okay, I fell in love with this because I got to go to the woods, to the forest with my friends and run trails. Or if you're in an area where you run a lot of roads like I do, I get to spend time with people I care about, that I jive with, that I like a lot, in this inclusive setting that's me and my buds and other people we don't know saying, how do you do, running down the road or running down the trail, just enjoying ourselves, right? And you can get fit doing that. It doesn't have to be this deep psychosis that you put yourself into this chamber and you net a enormous VO2 max. That's the job of your coach, right? Is to help you get there and provide you the structure and keep you motivated. But your job in your mind as an athlete, and me and you both have lost sight of this, is to make sure that you keep doing the thing for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Because we lost sight of that, buddy, and we got it back, right? Both of us, and you especially, like, you know, you're the focus of this cast. But doesn't it feel good to have it back and to realize I wasn't doing the training improperly? I was setting myself up for failure with my general expectations of how the day would go and the pressure I put myself on myself approaching it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like I don't care. I care a lot. I'm not serious about the sport. Like I have very big goals. I still put pressure on myself, but I do it for the right reasons. I do it for why I first started, not to, you know, I'm just not rushing things anymore. And I think that's a problem for me as a person. I like to rush everything, and sometimes it's just not the way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just do it for the right reasons, do it for yourself. And you can still have goals. You don't have to, like, even though like I was 100%. I guess dirt bagging Tillamook, I still ran it very competitively, and I wanted to win, and I wanted to get a course record. And when people told me that I was getting close to first male, I wanted to catch that dude too. Like, it's not like I'm still competitive. I'm still serious about the sport, but there is such a thing as being too serious about something.
Yes, but you're competitive when it counts. And this has always been my approach. I saw a great shirt today. You know me, I'm a t-shirt guy. I like lots of t-shirts and collecting things, especially shirts and records. And I saw this cool t-shirt today that said, I'm not here to be competitive with anyone. I want to see us all succeed, and I want to see us all finish. And it wasn't an athletic thing at all. It was this great content creator, Illy Smith. They are located up in New York City. They make these great shirts. I'll try to link that down in the show notes as well. Their work is really exceptional, and I bought one today. Don't tell my partner, Adrian. She said no more t-shirts. But
I love that.
But they make these great shirts, and they salvage goods, and they make cool shirts. But I think that's key, and that's how I've always approached ultras. I'm not really there to beat anyone until I find myself in a position where I get to get competitive, right?
Yeah.
I don't really think about my placement for the first 100K. Why? The race could go so many different ways in front of you. You know, I think you see this a lot at Western states where, like, okay, at mile 30, half the people in front of you are probably not going to finish. You know, no matter what part of the field you're in, it's just that's like the reality of the whole situation is the finish rate of these things isn't extremely high, especially when it comes to rough conditions. So why would you even stress about it? Get competitive when it counts, right? And for you, that's like, oh, I heard through the grapevine, which could be true or not true. Like, I could catch the top male at Tillamook Burn. That's fun and exciting, right?
Yeah. It was. He ended up being 10 minutes ahead of me, though, so it was not quite possible. But almost.
So close. So close. Okay, so we're gonna do this cool thing that we've done on the show for each episode so far, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more down the rabbit hole of what you're up to next.
Cool.
So I like these round robin kind of events, and last episode I actually did a round robin with my friend Robin. Very cool. So he dug that in
Nice.
the show notes. So what are your top 5 bike packing interests when it comes to, and we're talking gravel biking or mountain biking, carrying all your gear, your sleeping equipment, your food, other than what you get at convenience stores or grocery stores. Where do you want to go and explore? And it could be the White Rim, right, around Moab. It could be I want to trans Italy. I want to go across Italy. I want to do transcon US. Like, what are your top 5? Well, okay, figure out a couple. It doesn't have to be 5 of your like. I want to go there and explore that place on my bike.
Wow, everywhere. This is such a hard question. I'm also just getting into bike packing. Like, I have to be honest, I don't really know anything about bike packing. I know a lot of things about bikes, but I haven't really bike packed much yet. But there's a really great bike packing community in Boise here. One of my good friends who I went to college with, who I was on a cycling team with, is getting into bike packing too. I met some new friends here who are very into bike packing. So before I do all these crazy faraway adventures, I really want to just explore my new home state and really, bike up in the Oahes and the Sawtooths and just see where the roads go. We have endless trails and dirt roads here in Idaho, and it's been so lovely. So I think my top bikepacking interest, which might be boring because I live here, is to just go like right from my front door and see where I end up.
Yeah.
But then obviously I wanna travel, and my husband is really getting into it too. So we'll
Cool.
see where this takes us. But we are very fresh to bikepacking. It's something that we really want to get into this summer.
You can find me and Lotti on the forums at bikepacking.com, which is a great North Carolina-based company that has tons of information if you want to learn more about it. My friend Kim, who I ride gravel bikes with quite a bit now, has got me just way down the rabbit hole on cool adventures you can do on bicycles. So after this cast, I'll go work on my bike.
Nice.
Okay, Lotti, so that's not a bad answer. That's a good answer, because my main interest right now is to explore the Southeast, to like right out my door and like, throw my hammock on there and just go.
Yeah.
So this is probably something you've thought a lot more about specifically. What are the races you really want to do in the next couple years? And or FKTs. It doesn't have to be a race setting, but where do you plan to, and what do you want to explore when it comes to racing, like, and or just adventuring? Like, what are your big goals? Like, if I had 5 more races to do and or FKTs, like, what and exploring, what would you do?
Oof, a lot. I have
But you get
Broken
5.
Arrow.
These are like,
Yeah, that's hard because I've only raced so little so far. I don't know all these races. That's why it's really awesome for me to be friends with Nicole Bitter, because she like ran every race that I can think of. So every time I want to sign up for something new, I like text her and be like, "Hey Nicole, should I sign up for this?" And she's like, "Yeah." But
definitely.
I don't know a good answer to this because there's so many. I definitely want to race abroad some more. I want to connect some international travels with races. Maybe race something in Thailand. My sister-in-law is a really good runner, and she grew up in Thailand. So maybe we can do. I think there's a UTMB by Thailand, or some Thailand by UTMB, or some
Nice.
UTMB race there. So maybe we'll do that together. That would be really fun. I'm really not sure. Western States is obviously on this list. I have to figure out a way to get in. Might have to tackle Black Canyon again, or do one of the other races. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think just explore the world a little bit more with running.
Yeah, yeah.
Run races with friends. I really like to sign up for races where I know I'll see a lot of friends. So that's big on the list. But in terms of FKTs, it's kind of similar. Like I've been scheming with a friend about FKTs in Oregon and Idaho to see what we can do together. And that's really exciting.
Ooh,
We haven't
nice.
planned anything yet, but she's done a lot of them. So I'm kind of a FKT baby because I haven't really done anything yet. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's a hard question. There's so many races.
Yeah,
How
it
do
is a
I
hard
pick, just
question
pick
because,
five?
you know, like I think humans are very fluid and we're always changing, right? And our goals are always changing. And I go back and forth where I'm like, well, Spartathlon, and I want to run from Badwater Basin to Whitney Portal, right? Like I want to run the Badwater course on with a
Yeah.
friend or on my own or whatever. These are things I really want to do, right? But then sometimes I'm just like, I want to go run Gorge. That looks so cool. Just because I see
you
you do well.
should.
Or I see you race there, or I hear, ooh, soft underfoot Pacific Northwest, you know? So
Yeah.
I think we're always changing. So my top ones to see you run at, of course, like Western States is one of them, but I want to see you run Ultrawizard or
Oh, yeah.
Ultrasan. You know, I want to see you get to go to Comrades. I think you'd run exceptionally well at Comrades. But I always push you in that direction too, of like,
Yeah.
Lotti, you're super fast. Let's get you to those fast 80, 90K races, you know. Want to see you
I
at
think
the
that's
World
really
100K Championships.
I think the like 50 mile to 100K is it's really I love the 100K. It's I think my favorite distance. But to what you said, it's really hard to answer this because I'm very fluid with like I like to just sign up for races like a month in advance and not like plan out a whole race calendar because it just always changes
Yes.
what I want to do. It changes what I like. Maybe there are a couple weeks where I really feel like putting in a lot of vert, and maybe there are a couple weeks where I really want to just run fast and flat. So I like to just kind of go with the flow and see what I feel like and which race sounds interesting. And a lot of times it's influenced by friends who've run it before and tell me that I should run it.
Okay, the next one is pretty left field, and this is your last round robin, so make it count. Favorite bands, because you know we ask people that come on this podcast. It's kind of about music, kind of about ultra endurance, kind of about roasting coffee, kind of about wine. You know, kind of about all sorts of different content creation, right? Like no one particular realm. Art is a big focus within this variety show, the Ultrawizard Ramble podcast. Who are your favorite bands? What are you listening to? Because I know you. I mean, you're a bit of a music lover, right? What do you listen to a lot?
I love music, but I will say I'm not great with like really like keeping track of musicians and bands. I'm not good with song names or anything like that. So I'm not I don't listen to many bands right now. I listen a lot to Pink Sweats. Is a really fun artist. I saw him live at ACL
Okay. Pink
a while
Sweats?
ago. Pink Sweats, yeah. It's not punk rock.
Okay.
But I
That's
love
okay.
that guy. I also have to give a shout out to my good friend Midnight Milk, who is a musician in Austin.
Oh.
There's a lot of really great live shows, and he's just an awesome dude and makes great music. So I go with those two.
Okay, I'm going to need you to put those in the doc and the show notes over there, so we can put those down below because those are.
Will do.
I want to check them out. You know me, I like all types of music from
Yeah.
hip hop to punk rock to jazz to blues, etc. Okay, what's next? Ooh, wow, that's a good one, right? What's next for you? Tell us about what's coming up in the next couple months. We know Broken Arrow, and me and you are going to get a chance to go on this cool adventure. We have an Airbnb in Olympic Valley. Me and you are going to maybe put some crampons on or at least some Vibram shoes and go check out the high country at Western States. We're definitely going to go from Forest Hill to Auburn together over the course of 2 days in June. tell me what's next for you after Broken Arrow. And what distance are you running at Broken Arrow?
I'm running the, is it 46 or 48? Something like that. I think it's 46K. At Broken Arrow. I really have no idea where that's gonna go because all I hear is that it's just all covered in snow. So I don't know. I might need micro spikes. Am I using poles? I don't know. I have no idea what's going on there, but we'll figure it out. But that's coming up next. And then after that, it's kind of still flexible. I do want to do some 100-miler later this year. If the stars align. I'm not sure exactly which one yet. Not really sure if I'm doing it at all, but it would be really fun. And then I'm doing another daybreak racing race somewhere in Oregon. I think it's Mount Hood. In maybe July or August. So those are the ones that are coming up. But other than that, it's very flexible. We'll see. We'll see where we'll go to. We'll see what happens.
Very cool. First, our adventure at Western States, and we get to support Stephanie Flippin, our good friend, who's going to run. I feel so fortunate that this will be my fourth edition of States in a row, running or pacing. My fifth in a row, like running, pacing, or crewing. And this year, my coaching company, we've got between Nicole Manette and I, we've got 4 athletes racing the event. So we're excited. We're excited to just get out and see the community at Western States. It's going to be a really fun experience this year, and I can't wait to show you and maybe Sarah Beal as well the last 40 miles of the course. So
I'm super excited for that.
Well, hey, Lotti, this has been a real pleasure. We know that you are a Salomon sponsored professional athlete. Do you want to give a shout out to any of your other sponsors and tell us a little bit about where people can find you and your business?
I'll give a shout out to Drymax socks. They have been absolutely awesome. I love my Drymax socks. Swear by them. You can find me primarily on Instagram at Lotti Brinks. It's just Lotti Brinks, no underscores, I don't think. And then I'm also on Strava, and I think it's also just Lotti Brinks. So very simple.
Awesome. Super simple. Lotti, thank you so much. This has been really fun to get on just me and you. It felt really focused. It felt like I hope the audience feels as though they really got to know you as an individual, because to me, you've always been such an authentic person. It was really nice to see you just one-on-one, and for us to kind of unpackage, hey, what's this crazy ride we've been on for the last 10 years together. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I always love hanging out with you, so perfect.
You too, buddy. I'll see you at Western States.
See ya. Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the cast as much as I did. My good friend, my coaching client, more importantly, just a great person. Lotti Brinks got a chance to come on today. I just really enjoyed the conversation with Lotti. Like, she's so real. She's so down to earth. She is in ultra running for the right reasons, and she's got a lot of really positive stuff going on outside of. So the Boise community in general and the ultra running community in general is really lucky to have her. I'm going to have a bunch of links down in the show notes of different ways that you can find out more about Lotti, her wonderful business with her partner Aaron, her husband Aaron, Amelio. We've got 3 of their blades in our house. They make some really great kitchen knives and all sorts of different objects, so check them out. Give them a follow on Instagram. Check out their website for their beautiful products, and keep your eyes peeled for Lotti. I personally can't wait to run with her for a few days out at Western States this year, and to follow along and coach her towards just great accolades throughout her ultra running career. So once again, thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time.